So today we're going to be studying the book of Daniel, and we are doing actually the chapter 6, the blazing furnace. That's Daniel 3:19 through 30. Let me do a little review here. The book of Daniel follows the life of Daniel and his reliance on God, despite being a man from Jewish royalty that was captured, retrained, and put into the service of King Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king. We see the strength of Daniel show up when he's just 15 and standing up, respectively, against the non-religious food that was offered him and winning that battle with God's aid. Then, soon after he and his friends become part of the wise men of Babylon, they are part of a death sentence handed out by the king because no one could interpret the dream the king had. Now we see why Daniel was given the special gift of dream and vision interpretation, as he is the perfect position to help the king and save the remaining wise men from being killed. Nebuchadnezzar's first dream had to do with the world kingdoms after his. Bible scholars looking back can now fill in the blanks. After the Babylon kingdom is the Mede and Persian kingdom, of which our books of Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther talk about. Then came the Grecian kingdom, which doesn't seem to be talked about in the Bible, other than in Daniel's prophecies. After Greece comes Rome, and the whole New Testament is during the period of this world kingdom. The last kingdom to rule over Israel does not seem to have happened yet. That is, that probably 10 nations that control the world during the end times. We know this time has not yet come because there's not been no country ruling over Israel since Rome was expelled, and the rock that became a mountain and destroys all prior kingdoms also has not happened yet. We assume the rock is Jesus, and the rock that becomes a mountain will be the time of the second coming of Christ. King Nebuchadnezzar paid honor to Daniel for his correct interpretation and placed him in a high position. Daniel asked his 3 friends to be appointed as administrators over the province of Babylon. Daniel and his 3 friends are in high-level positions within the Babylonian kingdom. However, they are still Jews in a foreign land. Do they continue to worship the God of the Jews or succumb to the worship of the idols of the Babylonian kingdom? When Nebuchadnezzar erects a statue, he expects everyone to bow down to it. The Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego do not. What will their punishment be? Let's find out. So let's now go to the burning furnace. And I have the, by the way, I have the volume up on my chickens. So if they get too rambunctious, I'll have to turn down the volume.
Okay.
All righty.
Okay. Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual and commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them in the blazing furnace.
How did Nebuchadnezzar feel about the answer they gave?
The way this call is going. I'm getting more and more about
He was furious.
Right.
Is
What do you
that
think it?
he?
Yeah. Go ahead.
He was just furious as that they did that.
Right. On 2, what do you think it means that his attitude towards them changed?
Because before he was very pleased with them. You know, he had a lot of faith in them because of what they were able to do. And now because of this, you know, he was furious with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. In his rage, the king decided 3 things. What were they?
The furnace was to be made 7 times hotter. He commanded the strongest men to tie them up and throw them in the furnace.
Right. Why would the king think he would need the strongest soldiers in his army to tie the 3 men up?
Because he figured they would put up a fight.
Right. How strong is a person's faith? List below are some situations. Mark which ones require a deep faith in God. A widow gives her last 2 coins to the temple treasury.
Yeah, that's one.
B, a woman uses her last amount of oil and flour to bake some bread for another.
That is one.
C, a woman doesn't pray for her operation as her doctor is a good surgeon.
Yeah, no.
And D, a
Yeah.
woman fights through the crowd just to touch the garment of Jesus.
Yes, that's one.
Yep.
Okay. So these Daniel 3:21. So these men wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and all clothes were bound and thrown into the furnace. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace.
Right. They were supposed to throw them in, but because the soldiers died on impact, they fell in. What were the three men wearing when they were bound?
Robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes.
Right. Yes. They didn't even get to take off any of their clothes. Yeah. Are these clothes fireproof?
No,
Were their bindings loose or tight?
tight.
Yeah. What happened to the soldiers who took the three men up to the entrance of the furnace?
They died.
Yeah. Did what happened to the soldiers happen to the three men? Were they also killed before getting into the furnace?
Nope.
Were the three men thrown in the furnace or did they fall in?
They fell in.
Yeah. Considering the heat of the fire, would the difference of how they got into the furnace make any difference in their death?
No.
Yeah. No, doesn't.
Daniel 3:24. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, "Weren't there three men that were tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, your majesty." He said, "Look, I see four men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed. And the fourth looks like the Son of God."
Right. Obviously, since no one could get close to the furnace, did the doors remain open?
Yes.
Yeah. The king asked his advisors, who are his advisors again?
The astrologers, magicians, sorcerers, and enchanters.
Right. King Nebuchadnezzar says three things when he looks into the furnace. What are they?
Four men walking around. They were unbound and unharmed. And the fourth looks like the Son of God.
Right. The last line is translated differently by different versions of the Bible. Some of the versions will say, like a son of the gods. Which one do you think is correct?
Son of God.
Yeah, I agree. In the following scripture, Isaiah is talking about our soul. If we are Christian, there's nothing that can physically harm us that would take us away from him. Isaiah 43, 1-3. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze, for I am the Lord your God. Some people feel like he was thinking of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. No, they couldn't have done that. Isaiah is before Daniel as far as time-wise. So just kind of interesting.
Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire.
Does the king ask for the three or the four men to come out of the fire?
Three.
Yeah. These three men were with one like the Son of God and did not feel the flames. Why would they leave his side?
Because they were not meant to stay with him.
Right. Who did the king say these three men were servants of?
Most High God.
Yeah. Did the three men come out of the furnace?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think their willingness to die for the sake of God was a witness to others about the God of the Hebrews?
Yes.
Yeah. Even if they died, would their willingness to die show the strength of their faith?
Yes.
Yeah. Not everyone who is willing to sacrifice their life for their faith is physically saved this way. Throughout history, we have martyrs who have lost their life directly due to their faith in God. Their death had brought people to the faith. Look at your answer in number 6. How can a person dying for their faith bring others to Christ?
Because they believe so strongly that they would go to any measure to serve God. People see that kind of faith and strength and are drawn to it like flies.
Right. It is said, you remember the violence that happened at the Umpqua Community College. It is said that one of the people there professed that she was a Christian before they killed her. So her testimony rings out, you know.
Mhm. And David 3:27, and the satraps, prefects, advisors, they saw that the fire had not harmed these, nor was a hair or head singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them.
So now we see the types of advisors that are with the king. Looking at Daniel 3:8, what is another name for the royal advisors?
Astrologers.
Yeah. There are several discoveries all the advisors noticed about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. What are they?
Fire had not harmed their bodies. They didn't have any singed hair. Their robes weren't scorched, and they did not smell of fire.
Wow, they didn't even smell a fire. Look again at your answer to number 1 on 62. What do you think the astrologers feel about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego now?
I think they are in all of them.
Yeah. What do you think the astrologers will do now based on this response?
I think they're going to pay closer attention.
Right. They kind of thought Daniel had all the power, but, you know, they will
Yeah.
rethink their position, I think. What is the life application from this story? The prison fellowship says it best. The lesson is that through life's fiery trials and ordeals, God will never leave us nor forsake us in Hebrews 13:5. God not only knows about our suffering and trials, he goes with us in them, and he goes with us through them. He is ever present in times of trouble, as Psalms 46:1 says. God is our refuge and strength, and ever present help in trouble. What this scripture is saying is that God is ever present or always with us in our troubles.
Daniel 3:28. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command, and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God.
Right. Did King Nebuchadnezzar praise the God of the Hebrews?
I put yes, but now that I've reread this, yeah, I mean, yeah, he still did,
does.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
He just doesn't change his belief, but he does praise the God of the Hebrews. When the king saw
Yeah.
the fourth man in the fire, he described him as what?
Originally son of God,
Right, but here he calls him what?
an angel.
Right. Look again at the question the king posed to the 3 men in the end of Daniel 3:15. Does he now have his answer?
Yes,
And the answer is?
their God will.
Yeah. King Nebuchadnezzar described Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in several ways. What are they?
Wait a minute. I have it here, but I think I spelled a word wrong. Okay. King in several ways. Defied the king, worship no other God, willing to give up their lives, and hold on. They trusted in him.
Right. Consider the scripture from Romans below. How does this apply to the story? How does it apply to our own life? Romans 12:1-2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. How does that apply to this story?
Because they offered their bodies completely to God.
Right. Yes, they were willing to give up their bodies if, rather than change their mind about God.
329, Daniel 3:29. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, and their houses be turned into piles of rubble. For no other God can save in this way. The king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon.
Right. King Nebuchadnezzar decreed that no one could say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or two things would happen. What are these two things?
Cut them into pieces and turn their houses to rubble.
Right. What is the reason why he decrees this according to verse 29?
That no other God can save the way he did for them.
Right. What honor did the king give the three men?
He promoted them
Right. And what were their positions before this?
administrators.
Right. A few scriptures to strengthen you in your blazing furnace trial. Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I'm with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And we got to the crossword. Number 2 across. King Nebuchadnezzar was
Furious.
with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude changed. Number 6, they were willing to give up their
Lives.
rather than serve or worship any god, but their own God. The king commanded some of the
Strong as and it's soldiers that goes in that.
right, yeah. To the three men. 8, praise be to their God who had sent his
Angel.
and rescued his servants. Number 9, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego
Servants.
of the Most High God come out. 12, the king saw
4.
men walking around the fire. 13, these three men fell into the blazing.
Furnace.
Okay, one down. After the men came out and the king praised their God, he
Promoted
them into the province of Babylon. 3, the satraps,
prefects.
governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. 4, the 4 men were walking in the fire unbound and
Unharmed.
right. And 5, the 3 men walked out of the fire, out of the
Furnace. No,
furnace.
fire.
There you go. The furnace or fire, whatever fire is.
Yeah. Fire.
Okay. 7, not a hair on their head was
Singed.
10. These 3 men were wearing robes, trousers,
And turbans.
and other clothes. And 11, if anyone says anything against the God of the 3 men, their
Houses.
would be turned into rubble. Okay, very cool. Let me stop our recording.